we'll begin with the road to the Final Four. So we have 13 versus 18 in the West and 1 versus 15 in the East. 13, which was the number 1 ranked hole, cruised right through to the Final Four, beating 6 and 11 to win the Alexandra region. Stanley, the region number 18, beat 8 and 4 to get to the Final Four. And if you know anything about NCAA basketball, there's always Cinderella. Someone's always wearing that glass slipper, and that this year is number 1, which was the 18 seed. Had to do a play-in match, and it had the hardest road, beating 17, 3, and 7 to win the McLaughlin region. And they'll face off against 15, the Thompson region, which was right down to the wire, beating 5 and then finally 2 at the end, which was really close. So we're going to start off with the West region, 13 versus 18. And I'm going to welcome Kate McDowell, our current ladies and greens committee member, to just tell us who does she have and why do you have them going through?
I'm going to go with 13.
Okay.
I not in terms of how I play the hole particularly, because not always particularly well, and I'm usually pretty wiped out by the time I get to the green and can't really putt through seeing stars and everything. So, but I just think in terms of looks and challenge, I certainly would not want to tackle that from the Blues when they're way back. And I did take a guest out one time. We drove him up to the white tees, up to where the blue tees were, and all I could hear from down at the bottom of the hill was, "You call that a par 4?" And he just was still laughing by the time he came back down. So I just think in terms of look and challenge, I'm going to go with 13 on this matchup.
Okay. No, certainly that's the favorite all bracketology wise. So, okay, good pick. Next up, we'll go with Will Mitchell, former Canadian Tour professional and former PGA Tour professional, and our current membership corporate sales at Oshawa.
Perfect. Thank
Will,
you.
what do you got?
I think I'm going to go with the obvious choice that I know you're a big fan of, Dylan, as well, and that's number 1.
No. We're going west first, buddy.
What's that?
No.
First.
13 or 18. What do you got?
Oh, okay. I guess we won't get to the eventual winner.
No.
13 or 18.
We're gonna hold on to those hot takes for later, bud.
That's perfect. So definitely 13 then over 18. I mean, the natural geography of it alone, I think, just sets it apart. I think you got to really highlight that hole from the back tees more than the forward, but I appreciate the simplicity of it and that the design lets the topography and the geography speak for itself. So I think absolutely 13.
Okay. Yeah. I think this could be a popular pick. But let's find out. Next up, past ladies captain and current ladies committee member, Gloria Schwabe.
Well,
what do you have?
You know what? The 18 has a lot going for it. It's the hole that your match might come down to, and it's short, but it can be evil. Club championship weekend shootout, when that patio is full, there is drama and you can feel some adrenaline. So, even though it's for the ladies, especially off the reds, it's a smallish par 3, it's full of emotion. And I think that's what 3 has going for it. 13 is the kind of Angelina Jolie hole. It's beautiful, but it's evil like Maleficent, and there's lots of nastiness going down, if you miss hit down the right or the left. But I would have to go with 13 for Angelina Jolie, but it was a tough pick because of the drama and that gut-wrenching feeling you can have coming in on 18.
Totally. Yeah. I think 18 is a fantastic hole. It's too bad it's going up against 13. today. All right, so 13 in the lead thus far. So we will go along to former junior club champion and past Greens Department employee, Mr. Mike Stauffer. Mike, who you got, buddy?
Although 13 doesn't play the same as what it did over the years, 18, you put that pin top shelf, front left portion. That's a tough one to get at, but just with 13 with the beast of the hole, especially you got the wind coming out of the west. I've never heard it compared to Angelina Jolie, but I'd have to go with everything everyone else has said so far. I'd have to go with 13.
Yeah. 13's a tough one. This is too bad for 18, but no, all good points here. So let's go along to former junior and men's club champion Erik Bradley. Erik, former captain at Western, no big deal.
No big deal.
No big deal. Who you got, Erik?
Well, I mean, 13 obviously is one of the probably the most picturesque hole in Durham region. You could probably expand that with the new back tee. I mean, 452. You get on that new back tee and it's into the wind. I mean, it's a par 5 some days, very easily. 18, it's funny. Not many golf courses that finish with a par 3. And I remember the year I won the club, the pin was in the back right and the greens were fast. And I hit my ball and it just ended on the top of that back ledge. And I walk off the tee and Hal Butler says, "You better run up and mark that." And I laughed and I said, "Oh yeah, that's funny." Well, sure enough, as soon as I started to walk onto the green, my ball rolled from that back tier all the way to the front right corner. And it's, it turned an easy 3 into an easy 4. My vote on this one is 13. I mean, it's a tough tee shot. It's a tough green. You got to calculate your yardage right for your second shot. 13's my vote.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Erik. And we'll move along to our GM and COO of Oshawa Golf and Curling Club, Mike Rideout. Mike, been here for a year. What do you like, 13 or 18?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to reiterate the words of Erik Bradley, and he understands the course a lot better than I do, but I'm going to go with hole 13.
Yeah, I think this is the Duke of golf holes right now. And we're going to go to our current vice president, Michael Schneider. Michael, 13 or 18?
Here's another analogy. 13 is a Ferrari body with a horrible engine, and the engine is the green. The problem that I have with 13 is the green. It is blatantly ridiculous. Now, some people think that's fun, but as a look and an aesthetic, 13 is a beautiful. It's why on my wedding pictures last year, we had our wedding pictures overlooking 13. So 18, I think, to echo Gloria's point, I think that the attraction on 18 is its location with the clubhouse and the packed patio. But you can have that at any course. I think it's got a better, I like the green on 18, but as a whole, it's 13.
Yeah. That green is devilish. Erik, you and I played at Union a bunch of times. It reminds me a lot of the hole number 1 there as the descend down and then the up and then just the tricky green where if you're above the hole, it's death.
You just got to be careful. You got to be careful. You got to know, it's a bad analogy, but when you're playing Augusta, I've never played Augusta, but when I watch it, the guys just, when they work their way around there, they're just hitting the sections of the greens. That's right. It. On that hole, you don't hit the ball past the hole. Bottom line, you just play short. That's it.
Well, to further that, we'll go to Derek Gillespie, our touring professional at Oshawa. Derek, what do you like?
I'm going with everyone else and saying 13.
Yeah.
I just think, like Will said, like the shape of the land just goes with the hole. Going back to what Michael said, I don't know. I can't remember as a junior if the green was that severe or over the years it's gotten more sloped. I can't remember. 10 has gotten sunk in a little bit over the years. I don't know if 13 has or has not, but yeah, it's very challenging to putt. I think 18 is a pretty challenging hole to putt as well, though. So, but stepping back on the tee up top, it's gorgeous. Like we all think, is probably one of the prettiest holes in the area, and I would have to say 13. Now, again, going back to 18, very nice, and from the Blues, what is it, 175 or 200 yards? It's a pretty and challenging hole. Like everyone was saying, you put the pin back right or front left, or even front right. If you miss that little swale, it can get challenging as well. But the 13 is just a beautiful hole. You gotta hit a good tee ball. You gotta hit a good shot below the hole, like Erik said, and hopefully you can two putt. So, but I'm going to go with the board and say number 13.
Okay. 13, running show right here. And we'll pass this along to our current head professional, Dylan Walsh. Dylan, you've played here since a kid, since you were a boy. What do you got?
Yeah, I think playing since I've been 3 years old at Oshawa, so it's pretty awesome to be involved in something like this. And just every hole is different on the golf course, and it's really hard to, when you're doing this bracket, to kind of choose what your favorite's going to be. And I'm sure some people have changed their mind over this. Thinking about like what Gloria said on 18, and she made some really good points there. I was leaning a lot towards 13 on this, and now I think it's going to be a pretty close finish towards the end. You basically have your unique par 3 finish versus our most picturesque hole on the golf course. I think what it comes down to for me is kind of watching some of the events that have come through here, and people that play it for the first time, the hole that they seem to talk about the most is hole 13. They get up there and they miss the ball long or left or right of the green, and they're basically putting bogey on the card. It's one of the hardest up and downs they get with the slope of that green. You basically tap it in for bogey, and it's beautiful to look back down the hole after from the green to tee as well. It's beautiful. And it sinks in your mind on what a great hole that is. I got 13 taking this one.
Okay. And let's find out who Sharon Smith has, our current ladies and golf committee member. Sharon?
I think I'll be going with 13 as well. It was a tough call, though. I really love Gloria's points. But 13, picturesque. You're standing on the men's tee blocks of 8, and you could see to your right all the way up the hill, 13. And then when you stand on the green at 13 and you look down, it's just as beautiful. The green is mean and laughable, and you're above that hole and you just touch that ball and it rolls right off in the summer. You just have to stand there and laugh.
Or curse.
My pick is a close 13 to 18, though.
Yeah, no, that green on 13 is sadistic at times, and it's you could be above the hole and be chipping your next shot. But yeah, 13 is it's a classic golf hole. It's got all the elements for sure. And we'll move along to our teaching professional PGA of Ontario assistant champion, Mr. Jake McNulty. Jake, give us your take here, buddy.
13, I think, is definitely the most picturesque hole on the course, but I three-putted far too many times on that hole to not give 18 its due.
Join the club.
Yeah, for me, some of the best moments that I've seen at the course have been on 18, whether it's club championship weekend, seeing the hoot and hollering from the patio, or the shootout. And I think the moment that kicks it off for me was watching Ethan Cardwell make his winning putt at the Juvenile. Yeah. After, I think, a 6-hole playoff. The best moments, I think, happen on 18 at Oshawa. And so that's my pick.
Certainly, yeah. And we'll wrap this up with our teaching professional, Gear to Golf partner, 3-time men's club champion and junior club champion, Jake Patty. Jake,
Yeah,
give us your
thanks for
take here,
having
bud.
me.
Welcome, by the way, to Oshawa.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed this because Oshawa's obviously near and dear to everybody's heart, but I've loved, you know, it's been my home course kind of since I was 14, and I think one of the uniqueness about Oshawa is you never tire of the golf course. It's just so much fun to play. I'm gonna have to go with 13 as well. I think it's you know, arguably one of the best par fours in Ontario. But at 18 is there's some great points made for 18 as well. It's a, you know, incredibly dramatic final hole, you know, one shot that can you know, either cost you a great round or cost you a tournament, or potentially, like in the case of Ethan, like Jake was saying, you know, be an exciting finish to win a tournament. So, but I will go with 13 as well. It's what a great hole.
Yeah, certainly. And obviously the votes reflect that, sweeping the panel here. And I'm sure we'll see that with the, Mike, what do you got? Mike Stauffer.
I think it was, for those that were around the club for so long, I think it was 89 or 90. The OGA back then did a calendar for the top holes in the province, and 13 made it.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, that was impressive.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
I think if Oshawa was in the Toronto area, the golf course was in the Toronto area, 13 would get a lot more credit.
Yeah.
A lot more pictures of it.
I think when Mike, you can back me up on this. I think Tom McKenzie, when he looked at it, he thought it was a pretty good hole, except for the green. And one more comment about the green. Even the man who designed the hole thinks the green is ridiculous. That was Hal. Says the green is. So maybe going back to what you said, Derek, that originally it didn't play that way.
Yeah, I remember it being severe, but
Right.
Or quick, sorry, but I can't remember if was that slopey 25 years ago.
Apparently the front section sank down more.
I think it has over the years, but it's always been an intimidating hole to putt from above, especially above the hole. Yeah.
Well, the thing that I don't like about 13 is you can be, when going back to what Erik said about putting it on the course, I've been below the hole on championship weekend. I've putted up, the ball is sat on the lip and it's come back 2 feet. So that is, I've never seen that at Augusta. So when I've been watching it.
Yeah, if that hole did have a bit softer green, it would be a mean hole. Like, it'd be a great hole.
Mm-hmm.
You can right now. You can hit 2 really good shots, and you walk up to the green, and you're still not feeling that great.
No, you know, it's funny because, you know, even though 14 is out, you look at 14 green, which looks like a deceptively easy green, but it's got slope, but there are more pinnable locations on 14 than you'd ever find on 13. And it's got that same kind of sloping from the back to the front.
Yeah, I think 6 mirrors 13 as well. If you made 13 flat, you just kept the 2-3 bunkers that are there, you start to look at a hole that's really similar to 6. And I think 6 is kind of an understated hole a little bit at the moment, but it's surprisingly sloped back to front. It's an otherwise simple kind of kidney-shaped green, and just as much length as you ever need on a par 4. And I think that's what 13 would become. But what puts 13 over the top is the geography of it, right? Yeah. And that's what adds to the simplicity of it.
And I think 13 has become even more interesting with the pond now in play.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you
it's a little easier because it's lateral hazard.
Right, it certainly is. But you standing there and you see water. You know how many people start going, at least from the whites, they start going, because I've put it into the pond a few times.
But before the pond, if you blasted it right, you better be running to your bag and grab another ball because you're going straight off the tee. At least
you got to hope you're not playing the back tees.
Yeah.
You got to run down the hill to your bag and then run back up.
What I like about 13 as well, and I learned this playing with my kids when they were younger, is playing it from the forward tees or even the reds. It's a totally different hole now. Because now you've got to choose. Do you want to try to thread one up to gut or just hit one up to around the 100-yard marker?
Yeah,
it's
that's
fun.
true.
If anyone here has ever played the reds, I challenge you to. Fun golf.
I play with the Wednesday morning guys, and I'm taking an iron off the tee because I don't want to thread it up there.
Yeah,
that's a good point, Mike. I almost think the tee shot for the longer hitters, the tee shot from the back tee isn't that much harder than from the forward blue tee because it's so much wider where you hit driver.
Right.
Like you're actually going to hit, longer hitters are probably not going to hit driver from that the first blue tee because you're going to really, it narrows up there where you're going to hit it 300 yards. What do you hit on that tee, Jake, from the top, like the 400?
I usually hit a 3-wood unless it's a bit into the wind. Like I think the hardest thing about that tee shot is like settling yourself down after you jog up the hill.
Yeah.
I remember in club
if you don't take cards.
I remember
you got like 70 yards of width to hit, so it's not that.
I remember on member guest, Mr. Will Mitchell, when he was an assistant pro, was hitting balls for us lowly member guesters, and he was putting it in within 80 yards of the green with a driver. That was the best money I ever spent for the junior golf program.
Zero up there too.
I don't think the dad body can do that anymore. That was many years ago. But, no, I just love, I love how that hole changes as you move tees. You still have to make a decision. You're right. There's a simplicity from the very back tees. It's hit it as hard as you can, go up there, and you probably got 170, 180 to 200 left into the wind at all. And then as you start to move up the tees, you can't just overpower that hole. It's possible, I guess, but that target starts to become pretty small from the red tees and the white tees. That pond's more in play. The bunker's kind of out of play, but the pond's more in play. The tree line on the left even gets in my head when I get off the white tees there, if I want to try. Because if you miss it left, that's terrible.
Okay, well, with that, we'll go on to our other side of the bracket, and we have Cinderella, number 1, versus the par 5, 15th. Okay, so number 1's had the longest road to get here, and this is Will, on that note, I know you've got some very interesting takes on number 1. Who you got here, 1 or 15, and give me your reason.
I think it's 1 in my head by a good margin, and I can understand some people wanting to go for the length. And again, the geography on 15, thanks to that extra elevated tee shot compared to 1, picturesque, is beautiful. But the design elements of 1, I think, are fantastic. Between where the hole pinches in, I think it's maybe the best sub 400 yard par 4 that is on the property and around. I understand it doesn't have the appeal of 10 or 17 in that you can hit it on the green, but it goats you into wanting to go further. It's not such an obvious pinch point that you don't try and go further. You start to forget that bunker's there, that the long grass is on the right, that the little valley of sin is on the left side. It's got a green that's deceptively sloping back to front. I don't think most people realize how pitched that green is back to front, and how protected the whole right half is from that front bunker. I think right out of the gate, it's a fantastic hole that presents you with 6 optional clubs you can hit, anywhere from a mid-iron to a driver. And it's maybe the best use of 380 yards on the property.
Okay. Very good points. Yeah, you're gonna be convincing me on number 1 for a long time. I'm gonna move over to number 1. Has not been kind to me, if you haven't noticed. Next up, Gloria, who do you have here, 1 or 15?
I got 15.
Okay.
I just find it has way more fun factor than 1. And I always look forward to hitting the tee shot on 15. There's a lot of trouble to be had off the tee, but it's just a fun hole. It really makes you think at the end too, and you've got to make sure you keep in mind where that pin is coming up to 15. And I have lots of good memories playing match play on 15 too, kind of thinking, oh, right, I've done 12, 13, 14, home stretch. And I just really like that home stretch feeling on 15 and the fun of it. So 1, I find a nasty piece of work. It's so narrow. I like to call it the welcome to Oshawa hole. It's, and heaven help you, if you get burned by the narrowness of it, you go, what the hell did I come to this place? No, kidding. But that's the welcome to Oshawa hole. I hear what Will says. Got a lot of pluses to it, but it's full of narrow nastiness. But I'll take 15 just for sheer fun factor, and lots of good memories there too, where it's, okay, we're through 12, 13, 14, make or break it. Here, let's go. No mercy. So, I have to pick 15.
Yeah, and you're also a lot closer to the 19th hole, right? When you're on 15, so that's part of it.
You're far away from it at number 1 if you mess it up.
It's true. Sharon, you have 1 or 15 here.
Yeah, 1. 1 for me, but close. 15 is a nice reachable par 5 for a birdie, but 1 is the start of the hole, the start of the course. You've got the whole round in anticipation, and I love starting out with a birdie on 1, and it's happened many times, and it sets you up for the rest of the round.
Very good. Yeah, optimistic. I like that. Mike Stauffer, 1. I know you've got some memories on 1, some good ones.
I got memories on a lot of the holes.
Yeah.
1 is probably one of the, as Will said, best sub 400 yard par 4s you play. At the same point, 15 is so much fun, but one of the key factors is wind direction. You compare those 2 holes with a north wind. 1 is one of the toughest holes. 1, then 2. There's a reason why the year the club hosted the Ontario Seniors, number 1 played the hardest hole for the entire week. And then from 15, we've all been up there. You're coming down 14, knowing you got a north wind. You're licking your chops for that tee shot. You just want to swing out of your shoes because you're thinking going home in 2. For a lot of the reasons, though, that Will said, I got to give number 1 my vote. That's get out of there with a 4 and you're happy.
Yeah.
I remember one year starting off club championship final round, tied for the lead, and I made a triple. Sayonara. Number 1.
Oops.
Oops. It happens.
Exactly.
Very good. Okay, so I think this is going to be a pretty close match here. We'll go along to Mr. Mike Rideout. Mike?
So I'm going to go along with 1, but for similar reasons. I think the shot value, it much higher risk reward than the hole actually shows itself. It's very unassuming from the tee. Standing on the tee for the club championship at all levels, there were many golfers who felt that, well, it's so unassuming. I'm just going to go ahead and take out driver and actually put a plus score on their card on the opening hole. So I think it's unassuming, but a much higher risk reward than it actually shows itself. The resistance to scoring, how difficult it is, and the level of difficulty, I actually agree. I think for those who actually see such a wide fairway, I believe probably you're looking at least 50 yards across if you want to play just before the first bunker on the left-hand side. That there is an open space, but then the approach shot and it is I think the level of difficulty there is much different than most give it. The design variety, I think, again, for a sub 400 yard hole that is supposed to be a very welcoming opening hole, you still require a very delicate approach shot if you want to score well. And for me, of all the holes when I'm watching the club championship, that has a high memorability to me, just because of those who did decide to go for it and put themselves in quite precarious conditions. And I think as well that if we are able to open the creek, that hole will just be a real memorable golf hole. So I overall, for sure, for me is number one. I think there's more opportunity to recover on 15 than there is on hole number 1, and I'm going to choose it. I'm not surprised that it's made it to the final 4.
Yeah, Cinderella wearing that glass slipper quite well here. How's Fisherman's Wharf, by the way?
Oh, I'll tell you, it's terrific. It's just with social distancing, they're throwing the fish at us a little further away than they normally do.
All right, Derek, what do you have here? Who do you got? 1 or 15?
Wow, I did some.
I've seen you play them both well, so.
Yeah. Originally, I thought it was going to be 15, just because I love that tee ball, just looking down at that at the fairway and the beauty of it all. But the more I thought about it, the more 1 came to mind, just because, you know, the longer hitters could hit driver, but the first swing of the day, you just don't really know what's going on with that club. And then when you get up to the 150 or whatever, that second shot is really difficult. You don't realize, you know, the bunker pitches in, the slope of the green. It's very challenging. I've made more fives and 5-iron off the tee than any other hole, I guess, on the course. So, and again, I remember when I won it, I think the club championship when I was 15 or so, I played the hole like 3 different ways. You know, I hit driver, I hit 4-iron, I hit 6-iron. So just the variety of the hole kind of, you know, made my decision. And like everyone was saying, it's a hard hole. And Mike, you're right. If you can open up and we can all visually see the creek, and the more you miss that, even if you're hitting, say, 4 or 5-iron down the 150, the more you miss it right, the more you can't see anything either. So if you do the creek and you open it up, the more you're going to want to hit it right, and the more difficult that second shot gets. So I'm going to go with 1 just because there's so many different ways to play the hole. And even though I love 15, I love looking at it, I have more trouble with 1 than probably any other hole in the course. So 1's the decision.
Awesome. Yeah, good point on club selection, that you can play it so many different ways there for sure. Erik, who do you like here?
I mean, they're both really good holes, but 1 is, I mean, it's such a deceiving hole, because I mean, you know, Oshawa's such a good play golf course. I mean, there's so many golf holes at Oshawa where you can hit driver, you can hit iron. 1 is the perfect example. If you're playing a qualifier, you're probably going to hit iron. If you're playing with your buddies, you're probably just going to bomb driver and try to get it, you know, 20 yards from the green. There are 15, you're only hitting driver. You're just making sure you're not bouncing it down Park Road. Anywhere left is fine. It's a good hole. I mean, you can get it on 15. I mean, some of these guys can get it on 15 with a south wind, but I can't. My vote's for 1.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Well stated. Jake McNulty.
For me, I do really like both holes. I think playing with a lot of the better players at the club, the college guys, and Derek, for most of the season, 1 is a reasonably simple hole where everyone just pounds driver over the trees. But it's always fun watching club championship, those same players step on the first tee, and now suddenly the same club goes everywhere. That's my favorite part of 1, is that the tournament bit changes everything for people on that tee, for the better players. But I think for most of the year, my favorite hole out of these two is going to be 15. I love the view from up top on that top tee deck, and it's always a really pivotal hole in your round, because it's like the last par 5. If you hit the tee shot that's good in the right place, you're gonna have a good shot at hitting this green in 2. But even if you're around the green, none of the up and downs around 15 are easy. So to me, it's a par 5, kind of mid to late in the round, that can really change a round. That's not a gimme birdie like some of the other 5s. Like number 7 is sort of a gimme birdie for sometimes. But 15 for me, it's just gorgeous from the top of the tee, and then it comes at a point of round where if you hit some good shots and hit some good shots around the greens, you can just like finish your round really strong. Gives you some motivation to finish. I think for the most of the year, I like that hole the most, and that's why I'll get my vote. But for the 1 week, watching everyone lose their minds in the tee is fun.
Yeah, and there's some carnage early in those rounds for sure.
Yeah.
But 15 was a pivotal moment last year in the club championship with Cardwell going a little bit long and that green, you go long. That is bad news. Bad news.
Yeah. I think I've hit the longest tee shot ever, actually, with Erik. I've ever hit on 15. We were playing once do you remember this, Erik? We were playing at the start of the year, and it was just insanely cold and windy. And I got one like to the bunker. I was just so confused.
I believe that same you made about every putt imaginable. Here, all I heard was how you putt.
That's golf.
That is golf. Dylan, what's your take here?
Yeah, I've got number 1 on this one. I was kind of hoping hole number 2 was going to make it over 15. I know that was a close vote, but then I would have
really close.
Tough decision between 1 and 2. But between 1 and 15, I got to kind of reiterate what kind of Mike Ryder was saying. Kind of standing on the club championship or any events, I've seen standing on the tee in a better ball qualifier. Someone that can hit the ball 300 yards hit 9-iron off the tee, and it was a better ball. So it's very strange on what club selection can kind of happen. And I see some people that hit the ball about 220 yards off the tee still pull driver out and try and hit into the narrow gap. It's a hole that I think people underestimate, especially when on the first day they like to just pull out driver on hole 1. You've got the patio that's 15 feet away. That's people are watching, putting pressure on. The putting green's right there. There's large gatherings there. It seems to be a very pressured filled tee shot, one that I'm sure most players, whether if it's their 150th round on that course or their first round playing Oshawa, they're going to feel that pressure of standing on 1 with the patio and just uncertain what club to hit. Kind of like what Derek mentioned. He's played the hole in a club championship 3 different ways. No one really knows what club they should be hitting off that tee deck. It's amazing. You hit iron one day and you make birdie, and the next day you hit iron, you make triple. It's just a hole that has so many different shots off the tee deck choices, and then it's a very difficult approach shot to a green that kind of runs front left to back right. That's deceiving to hit. So I got number 1 taken this pretty easily.
Yeah, I usually begin my conversation on 1 with my first ball's a 1, my provisional is a 2. And you got Pigram in the background betting he's going to snipe it into the creek. Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Kate, what do you like here?
I found this was closer than the other matchup, I think. I love 15. I love how it looks from the tee. I love the 2-level green. It doesn't matter where the hole is. I enjoy it. I don't find it an easy birdie hole, that's for sure. I know some people call it that, and I don't know how they play it so much better than I do. But I had to go with 1 on this one. For those of us who that is the first shot of the day, generally speaking, that's an intimidating shot. Not that a lot of the ladies use anything much other than a driver on that hole, maybe a 3-wood if you're a long ball hitter, but that's an intimidating shot. And like you said, when the dining room used to be more focused on towards the that first hole, I can tell you my sister used to just pick up her ball and she would walk down onto the fairway and drop her ball down there. She wouldn't even hit from the tee at all. So it's an intimidating shot, but it's a gorgeous hole. It's just I love number one. It's just it does set you up for the for the rest of the day. If you walk off with a par, you just this is awesome. I'm gonna have a great game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I picked number one there.
Okay. Yeah. All great points there. Jake Patty.
I've got number one as well. So many great points in regards to the hole already said, but I just echo that it's a great risk reward hole. I wasn't brave enough to hit driver enough when I was playing there, but usually elected to hit a 6 or a 5 iron off the tee to the gap around the 150. But then you're left with a very difficult approach shot to a really, really small green. Versus if you do have the courage to hit driver and you hit a good one, now you've got a little, flip wedge and it becomes a real birdie opportunity. So, I just think there's tremendous variety on the hole for how you can play it. And it's just a great risk reward, short par 4.
Okay. Very good. And, Michael Schneider, your take on 1 versus 15. What's the debate? Who do you got?
When I first joined, Hal Butler was standing on the first tee, and he said, "Easiest hole on the course, 4 iron, 9 iron. That's all you do." It wasn't until last year that I actually did 4 iron, 9 iron. I think the thing for me is even with the wind coming out of the north, like you're talking about multiple clubs, I can basically hit a 3-wood, a 4 iron, a hybrid, and put it in the same spot on number 1. But if the wind is different on number 15, I could be looking at 50 yards further and I've hit a driver. I think that second shot on 15, particularly if you're going for it, is a really intimidating shot because Park Road woods on the right do beckon. And I also want to talk about, and I know that Kate mentioned it briefly, was the 2-tiered green on 15. If you put yourself long and the pin is in the front, you're walking off maybe even with a double. So I think the aesthetics, I agree with Mike Rideout. I think 1 can be potentially a better hole, even a superb hole, when we clear out and we do some refinements there. But I think based on what there's right now, I think 15 is a better green. I think it demands a second shot that is more, for those of us who aren't as strong a hitter as the Jakes and Erik and Mr. Stauffer. It wasn't until I played the Reds with the Old Farts on Wednesday morning that I was able to realize what it's like to hit a driver on number 1. And that just basically, for me, then became pump the ball down just before the green, pitch it on, and get a birdie or a par. So I'm going to go with 15. It's a tough choice, I agree, but I think right now 15, also because of the green and that second shot, is the reason I'm going to go for it.
Very good. Any comments? Any further comments on those 2 holes by anyone?
You left the best for the last. What can I say?
Talker, Michael.
One of the reasons why 1 got my vote over 15 is because of the green. That green is so different from the rest of the golf course. That green is completely differently, like you could get a completely downpour rain and that green will still run fast, where the rest of the greens are always running slow just because of the composition and how it was built.
Yeah, it's the only USGA green on the course.
It's because it was built in '87, right? It's a newer green. I personally, when I was a kid, and Erik, I don't know if you remember this, or Dylan, you might, I actually liked it when the green was kind of farther to the right where the bunker is. And it was a little elevated. I personally like that green better.
You got to put the tree back in the fairway then, eh?
I'm not.
Love it.
And number 1, why do you think Dr. Jones, for everybody that's had the privilege of playing with Dr. Jones, he's got it hit to your happy rule on the first tee. I don't need you walking off the first tee pissed off. Okay? That's why that hole is hard. And I'll be remiss that I have to mention this, and everybody, if they never heard the story, my grandfather, love him and miss him dearly, will go down as the only member to ever get a hole-in-one on the first hole at the Oshawa Golf Club.
Oh,
Good old Wilson.
Well, I guess I'm biased towards 15 because I got my first eagle on 15. So
me too.
Yay!
My first eagle on 15. My only, actually.
Good for you.
Oh, you're getting there, Gloria. You'll be there.
Was there any surprises here? Any holes that you would have maybe put forward into the final four, or do you think that the four we have were properly selected?
It's interesting that one was seeded so poorly and got this far. That's
yeah,
makes you wonder.
I was shocked by that too, and I'm a believer that there aren't enough really good short par fours in the game, so I'm pretty partial to number 10.
Yes,
I might be alone on an island with that one, but I think 10 is just such a great short par four, like number 10 at Riviera. I've probably made way more fives on that hole than threes in my lifetime, and just such a good short four.
You see, I'm also shocked that 17 isn't as well, for the same reason. I mean, not everybody is like Derek who can pound it over the tree, but 17 with that small little original green, it looks, people come out and say, oh, it's this deceptively easy hole. And when I followed the GAO under 30, because I was photographer for the under 17, that hole caused more problems, along with 13, that 17 hole.
That's precisely why it's not up
thought
there.
if they put the driver out and they hooked it over into the left-hand side, into the trees, they were in trouble.
Yeah.
It's the Rodney Dangerfield hole.
It's no respect.
It's no respect.
The other one is the Angelina Jolie hole.
Yeah, I'm surprised 17 didn't last longer, and 2 maybe. Surprised they didn't last longer. Those were 2 holes I watched when they had the men's amateur at our club. And I was very interested to watch them play number 2 because I thought everyone would just be bombing it. And they all took out, to a person that I watched, all took out an iron, hit to the 150, hit it on the green, 2-putted or 1-putted and walked off. I was so surprised because I know our members, we're always trying to hit it as far as we can. I got to get to the 100-yard marker, or, can I get it over that hill from the reds and all that sort of stuff. So I was so surprised in watching them play number 2 the way they did, which maybe that's the smart way to play it. I don't know. But the rest of us just like to try to bomb it as far as we can on that hole. And then I was lucky enough on 17 to see somebody get an eagle from the right side bunker in that. Wow. And I just thought, I was just, for those of us who can't hit it to that green on 17, it's just nice to watch it when somebody can.
Thank you, Jackie, for that note.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, this has been great. Certainly learned a lot about these holes and through the bracket, and certainly some surprising some votes on all this. Any other further takes? Gloria, you've got the hottest take of the day with the Angelina Jolie thing. That is
that's pretty hot. I'll agree. That's pretty hot.
That is number 1 by far.
We're just gonna think every time I play that hole.
Well, this has been great. Thank you for all of you for participating in this.
Let's hope we're out there.
Hopefully, we're going to be back playing these holes rather than voting on them very soon. Hope everyone is staying safe and healthy, and enjoy the day.
Thanks very much.
Good seeing everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, it was great.
Yeah, thanks for organizing.
Yeah, thanks for organizing. Have a
See
good day.
Oshawa.
Right.
Yeah.
Oshawa.
See ya.
So that's it for us here with the Bracketology 2020 edition. 13 cruising right through to the final, looks like, certainly by our panel's suggestion. And it looks like they're going to be playing Cinderella, number 1, who, man, from a play-on game right to the final. So 13 versus 1, we think. Now, it's up to you to vote to change that opinion. But that's it for us. Thanks for all of you for participating in this, and stay safe.